Welcome to Pinpoints, key points from top business webinars. The topic of this issue is Transform Your Marketing, Strategies for a Digital Era, highlighting takeaways from a popular webinar with globally recognized storyteller, designer, and entrepreneur, Jonah Sachs. As the world changes around us, so too must our communication models. As we look at the changing present and the future, we have to take a step back to understand it, to maybe even 70,000 years ago when human beings first evolved to communicate. Stories are the dominant form of communication in an oral tradition society. And as we enter a new digitally empowered oral tradition, the importance of storytelling will once again rise in a way that it was never needed quite so deeply in the broadcast tradition. A story well told puts every moment of action where it is, to illustrate a core truth about how the world works. Any good story is constructed in this simple way. You have the surface, which are the visible elements. Below that is a core truth that you stand for, and below that are values that you want to share with the world and see replicated. As brand communicators, we can think of this model as a way to hold our communications together. What is the moral that the touch points point back to? What is the core, relevant truth that resonates with our audience's values and extends their understanding of the world? If we think back to the oral tradition, we can see that certain kinds of stories tend to spread. Joseph Campbell was approaching many of the same questions. Campbell did do something quite amazing, which was to come up with a template, what he called the hero's journey. The hero's journey is the basis of the story of Moses. It's the basis of The Matrix and The Wizard of Oz. If we think of the brand itself as an unfolding story, we can start using some of the insights of the hero's journey to give life and character to that story as we go to market. The first insight is that the hero is not someone who has all the power, strength, or knowledge. The hero is the outsider. In the broadcast era, the brand becomes the hero. The audience is cast as a damsel in distress who needs to be saved, and we become the hero. Story engagement, instead of broadcast marketing, casts our audiences as the hero. Brands are now learning to empower their audiences to connect to their deepest values and become the hero of their own stories. It's a simple transformation. Next time you communicate and are telling a story on behalf of your brand, ask who is the hero. If it's you, you're probably in the broadcast model. If you're thinking about your audience as the hero, you're starting to work with story engagement in the digital era. How do you stick around if you're not the hero in the story? This leaves a very powerful role available: the mentor. The mentor is the character who approaches the hero who's muddling through a broken world and says, so much more is possible. Instead, the mentor creates a relationship to get the hero to fall in love with the mentor and then take the journey. Speaking to higher values and empowering audiences spread in the digital era. Understand the values you stand for and put those values at the core of your overall brand story. We want to teach a compelling truth that helps our audiences understand the world better from having known us, and then make sure that every single thing that we say points back to that truth. As we go across touch points, it's key to understand that every tweet, every Facebook post, and every interaction that we have with people should reinforce this core moral. There's one more transformation that's more on a tactical level. When we look at evolutionary biology and neurology, we find that our brains have not evolved physically almost at all in the last 70,000 years. Understanding what we cared about 70,000 years ago will help us understand what people care about as they're browsing the web. The idea of cheats is that social scientists and evolutionary biologists believe the reason we started telling stories to begin with was altruism. The minute you start holding yourself to these ideals, things start to change. Jonah Sachs is the co-founder and CEO of Free Range Studios. He's helped hundreds of major brands and causes break through the media noise with unforgettable campaigns. He was named one of the 50 most influential social innovators by Fast Company magazine. He is the author of Winning the Story Wars. The featured webinar was produced by SoundView Live.